Hey guys, this is Maragal Ben Yaakov, and today is November 7th, 2022, and I am recording this in the town of San Bernardino, California. I normally record everything in my studio in Hot Springs, Arkansas, but anyway, I'm out here doing home improvement for my mom here. Anyway, I'm in her library here, little baby library. But anyway, today's video is not going to be a religious one at all. It's actually going to be a political video. And if you don't want to hear politics or stuff, you can turn the channel and look at something else. But being November 7th, being on a Monday, tomorrow is election day, and the last day. And but I want to talk about at least one race, and this is the Senate race in Pennsylvania. Is between a guy named Dr. Oz and another guy named John Fetterman. And I want to, I'm going to be forthright with you. I'm an independent conservative, and so with that in mind, I mostly vote Republican in a lot of ways, and I'm not a what do you call that? Personality, cult of personality type of person. Like, I didn't vote for Trump because he was, on his TV show, or blah blah blah, for himself necessarily. It was his ideas and his policies that he wanted to embrace. And so, with that in mind, I go for the best candidate that will not benefit me, but the country, because if people just keep voting for themselves, they're mostly voting for their pocketbook. And conservative ways are ways that work for eons of time, from ancient times when people had kingdoms and nations to modern days. It's those conservative values that work and are tried and true. When you want to do socialism and things like that, you take from this group and give it people who don't deserve it and things like that. The society messes up, and there's always going to be a black market, where people are like, even where people are going to fight and struggle through trying to get ahead. So even in communist Russia, you had like the black market, which was like a pure form of capitalism, because they're doing it under the table. So they would buy and sell and trade. You have an equal value. You give me this much rubles for this type of thing, where on top of the surface you work for the government. And the same thing with China. China is communist, but the people who are in office are doing things in a capitalistic way. Like they themselves are telling the nations, oh, we're going to do this, blah, 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 and give you this for this, and they benefit while all their nation is slaves pretty much working for them. And so you have these kids, 9 years old. I like to mock American society sometimes, like if like one friend of mine had a show about a fan at Walmart, and it didn't last like 1 hour. And I said, well, what do you expect when a 9-year-old girl in China makes it? Come on. And so, just speaking reality. So I want to complain today about the Pennsylvania Senate race between Oz and Fetterman, John Fetterman. Now, a lot of people, conservatives, like Newsmax and this type of news agency, and Sean Hannity and a few others, will talk about his stroke and he's not fit, whatever, to be a senator, because senators really have to think. And Fetterman, sometimes can't think straight. I don't know if the proper words, he's not cognitive enough. Like Biden, he's talking to ghosts and looking for this person, that person. He just skips all around and things like that. But I don't even deal with that, because I'll be frank, like in Arizona for the governor race, there's a lady there named Carrie, what's her name? Carrie Lake. And her opponent is, let's see, I wrote it down. like Katie Hobbs, and she's a Democrat. See, she won't even have a debate. She doesn't, where Fetterman, he had a stroke, he has his issues, but I'll be frank talk with you. He had the balls to show up and have a debate. Now, he may not have done so well, but he had the balls to show up, where this Katie Hobbs lady who doesn't even want to debate, because they cannot, it seems like a lot of Democrats cannot speak about their policies and failed policies and these lame ideas. And so, one thing I want to bring about this Senate race, I just want to say to Democrats, not because he had a stroke, John Fetterman, because he had a stroke, but because of what he believes in. I'm like, is this the best you can do? Literally? This dude right here, I mean, you see the problems under Biden, the BLM, the anti-police, defund the police, and now, in Pennsylvania and Philadelphia are super high in crime, and now you put this guy on the ballot. He should not even been on the ballot. I mean, is this the best you can do? He wants to, John Fetterman, he wants like 1/3 of people in prison to be released from murderers, and he actually let some murderers go free. I'm like, you're really going to put a murderer back on the street, when back in the day you just executed those murders. You commit murder, you are killed, you're knocked off, you're given the grave as your prison. And so, and I don't believe in life in prison, because why should a taxpayer keep this scumbag alive? But nonetheless, this dude, who, like I said, Pennsylvania and Philadelphia are high in crime, yet this guy is wanting 1/3 of prison inmates to be released, from rapists to murderers to this and that, and some been released already. So I'm like, what in the hell? I don't know if this is correct, but the people that vote, or nominate certain people to run to be a senator, it's like, this is the best you can do. I mean, really? I mean, Fetterman is off the hook, It's like, let's see what I wrote about him, besides, he doesn't care about abortion, he approves of abortion even up to the very minute of the kid being born. I'm like, what the hell, dude? And, so, what else? Plus, John Fetterman wants to have safe zones for heroin addicts, so they could inject themselves while being supervised. Fetterman also wants to legalize hard drugs. It's like, who is this guy? He wants to set people free from prison, from hard crimes, not like petty stuff, like you had an ounce of marijuana or something, which is pathetic. But I'm like thinking, is this what the Democrats have? Is this the best what they have? Is clowns like this, that you're so lust for power, you just use him for fodder, like President or Putin in Russia right now. He don't care about the death of certain soldiers. They're just fodder for the cause. If they could just keep pushing them out, eventually, hopefully you'll win, regardless of how much blood you spill. Democrats are kind of like thinking the exact same way. They don't care if he had a stroke, he can't talk, he has a D behind his name. And so whoever is thrown out there, if he could win, if we could get a majority in the Senate, it'd be great. We have power. I'm like, so you rather have power versus doing the right thing. Put someone forward who's worthy of the Constitution of the United States, who protects the borders. He's like pro sanctuary cities. He don't care about the border and things like that. So I'm like, what in the hell are you thinking of, Democrats? I'm like, okay, if you go to Mexico and you don't like the freedoms there, you don't like this there, don't like that there, you go to Saudi Arabia and the same thing, the theocracy type of lifestyle they live there. If you don't like that, don't you get the drift? when you have the borders open and all these people come in and the first act they do is commit a crime by going across our border illegally. You know, these people bring their culture and bring this stuff with them that's not Americana. They might want Americana, but they're not Americana yet, okay? And they may not change, you know, and some of these guys are criminals or cartel people and things like that. So when you have a mass amount of people that are foreigners, they change the culture. So it's just like, okay, like say Christianity. Use this for example. In Spain, before Christians showed up, Spain was a certain way. Then when Christians showed up and then the Pope became like a high dictator, it was like a theocracy, then Christianity became a nightmare for many others, like the Roman Catholic Church. They became a nightmare for anybody else, and they start persecuting Jews and fellow Christians. You're a heretic and this and that. And so you get this overwhelmingly bad thing when there's a offset of balance of power. And so in the same way, when you have clowns of the DNC are just putting crap out there. Let's defund the police. Let's let criminals go. You know, and others like no bail at all. You just book them and then set them free. What are you asking for? You're asking for a society that's full of mayhem, chaos, violence, and things like that. So, you know, you don't want a society like that. You want it to be proper, good, wholesome, a place for your kids to run around without people being shot. You know, teach kids responsibility. Like, it's not the guns that cause a crime, it's the person that causes the crime. You know, and for liberals out there that want to, you know, like and these Democrats that want to take guns away and things like that or whatever, it's like, and put all these regulations in place for guns and stuff. It's like, why can't you understand that a criminal, by definition, does not obey law? So when you make these laws, you are only affecting the law-abiding citizen, never a criminal. So it's better to make it equal ground. If you say this is a gun-free zone, and if you're caught with a gun, you're in trouble, well, the criminal don't care about that. So guess what? Who's going to be a victim? You know, if a criminal shows up, you need to have equal playing field. If a criminal shows up with a gun, there's a good citizen who knows how to use it, been trained the proper way, and he pulls a gun out on the criminal, and he's like, oh, maybe I should lay off. See how it works? And so it's like, you know, if you want to defund the police, you're just asking for trouble, because the power of authority and being fearful of getting in trouble, someone there will stop. That is the mentality. It is the likelihood criminals will not do it. Likewise, if criminals know that a society is armed, they're not going to go in that particular area, okay? This is just the reality of how it works, and of how real life works. And Fetterman, you know, like I said, he has never worked a real job in his life until he became mayor of a certain city. And he doesn't know business at all. And as far as mayor, he rarely showed up to council meetings. And what else? He's been like a parent's baby kid, you know, trust fund kid or however. He's been taken care of by his parents all the way till he's an older man, like 50 years old. You know, so he's been pampered his whole life. Now he has a stroke issue, well, you know, but like I said, I don't have a problem with the stroke issue, like he has cognitive problems. That's not the issue. The issue is his policies and his ideals and his values. His values suck for our society. And for you who are in Pennsylvania and the Democratic Party to uplift and uphold and to praise him, you know, is, you know, absurd and ridiculous and basically point frank ungodly, if you want to put it that way in religious terms, okay? So, but if the people, are taught by liberal news not what his ideals are, and you're just being a stupid voter, and you just say, I'm a Democrat, there's a D behind his name, without knowing who he is, without studying, because a lot of people who vote just go D, 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 or R, 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 he's a Republican, he's in my party, and they don't know anything about him personally, and what his views are, okay? So, a lot of people are stupid when they vote. They don't know anything of anything. They just, well, I gotta keep. I have, it's my right by the Constitution. I have the power to vote. Bring this person in or bring that person out. And so you want to be smart in who you vote for. So I do not feel sorry for anybody in Pennsylvania. If you're that stupid to vote for him, and yes, I'm going to call you point blank, you are stupid, because you are going to reap what you sow. It's like right now you have an ignorant bunch of voters who voted for this clown named Biden. I was like 2 years ago, we're energy independent, and our borders were not totally completed with a wall, but there's a policy, remain in Mexico, and so people still came over, but it was nowhere near like it is now. We're approaching 3 million people in 1 year, and it's just like, that's more than the whole entire state of Arkansas and other states, in 1 year. So, you get what you vote for. And it's just like liberals are complaining, the gas is so high, my food's getting high and things like that. Well, hello, clown. You voted for a guy who's anti-fossil fuels and said on the campaign trail, I'm against fossil fuels. And that's the thing about Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania makes like $80 billion a year in either fracking or fossil fuels. Well, Fetterman is against all that. And now he's backtracking because it looks bad on his last days of the campaign, 1 day left. He's so-called backtracking like he's for fracking now. When all through the campaign and when he talked and had interviews, he's against fracking. So you cannot go, you cannot believe hypocrites, okay? And so these clowns are just destroying the country. I'm not going to be like the liberal news, oh, democracy is going to end. No, democracy will still be here. But the society will be worse if losers and stupid people get in office. There's Democrats out there that are middle of the road, they might be Democrats. It's not their old school Democrat party like John Kennedy in the 60s. It's not like that anymore. It's more left-wing nonsense, and you can't have a society that works on, open borders, come on in. Now in like Washington, D.C., they are allowing illegals vote in the election. I'm like, what the hell, dude? They're not even a citizen. They should not even, I'm not going to say they're not allowed to be here because people could visit, but they're definitely not allowed to vote in a U.S. election if they are not a citizen, because if that was the case, every person in communist China could come and just visit Washington, D.C. and vote and just foul everything up. Can't do that. Right? So... yeah, Fetterman is a bad idea, a bad choice. Like Dr. Oz, I'll be frank about him. I watched him. He's smart. Yeah, he's a doctor, but he is not charismatic at all. Okay? He doesn't give you the wow factor. Like Trump, when he has a rally, he has a wow factor. He just pushes the envelope, pushes the limits, says crazy stuff. You're like, oh, wow, But look, I'm not part of the cult of personality. It's his policies that I liked. And regardless if you agree or not, he was one of the best presidents of all time of the United States. Maybe not as a person, I'm not saying that, but as a president who represented the U.S., who protected us, protected our borders, and no one did war on his watch and things like that. The economy was great. and things like that. He did things right most of the time. I won't say 100% of the time because I don't know 100% of the things that happen, but nonetheless, do not vote for Fetterman. He is bad news for America. He's bad news for your state, and he's bad news for the Senate, okay? Like I said, Dr. Oz might be a dull, blah, whatever, tall, non-charismatic guy, but his ideals and policies, what he believes in, are sound. They're correct. He's pro-America, pro-borders. He does the right thing, fiscal conservative. He's pro-police, pro-military. So do the right thing. That's what I'm saying. If you love this country and you love our freedoms, don't destroy what you got, okay? If you're a pretty girl, to give you an example, if you're a pretty girl, don't put manure all over your face and say, I'm beautiful, I smell great. Because that's basically what you're doing, when you vote for that guy. Another thing about John Fetterman, he wants to prosecute oil CEOs and grocery store CEOs. And this is kind of ridiculous. I'm assuming, this is just assumption, but he probably thinks there's gas gouging. The thing is, gas companies don't make that much per gallon. And, it's based on policies and things like that, supply and demand. And so one of the first things that Joe Biden did when he went in office, he canceled the Keystone Pipeline. And we would already be having that oil. And plus, getting rid of certain permits and things like that. So we were energy independent under Donald Trump, President Trump. But the first things Biden did, he got rid of our oil independence, our energy independence. And now he's doing politics with our oil reserve, which is for our military or national crisis, like if a hurricane comes, knocks out a few rigs in the Gulf and things like that. So we have to tap into that, or we go to war, we need it for our battleships and things like that. So, so when you see, like here in stupid ass California, gas is like $6 a gallon, in some places $8 a gallon. That's because they're stupid policies, and you cannot phase out. It's one thing to have electric stuff, but you cannot, Biden has never run a business at all. He's a shyster, so he's benefiting his own pocketbook, for a guy who makes like 400 some K as president or whatever it is now, yet since the Obama years, he's worth so many millions. Well, how do you do that? When you only make so much a year. So you don't run a business. You're shystering. And it's one thing if you sold a million books, made a few movies and things like that. It's one thing. But, he's doing shysterism. Say with Nancy Pelosi doing that stuff. But nonetheless, I'm correlating this with John Fetterman because it seems, like I said, his opinion, because he wants to prosecute oil CEOs and grocery store CEOs, he doesn't have the concept. Okay, when Biden, on the first day, he cuts off, he cancels the Keystone Pipeline and he, cancels certain permits, for digging for oil and natural gas and things like that. When you cancel all this, and now he's going to Saudi Arabia, maybe Venezuela, and for oil now, when you have it right here, we were independent here in Arkansas. We had gasoline as $1.45 per gallon, thanks to Trump and his policies, because we became energy independent. Now, the moment Biden did certain stuff, it went up on day one because of that. It's been going up. And the only reason it's been going down as of late is only for political reasons. He's tapping into the strategic oil reserve. And so he's doing this fake decrease. He's putting oil on the market to make it go down, but it's a fake, reduction of price, because the moment you run out, or stop that, then it goes back up. It's fake. He's only doing because the November 8th election. He's doing because the midterm election. That's the only reason, because people don't study. They just see, they don't look into politics. Oh, the prices are going down. Biden's great. Thank you. And it's like, where they don't even understand, he's the one who caused inflation. He's the one who did it point blank. And that led to the world inflation, economic crisis. Because when you cancel, you go against fossil fuels, our economy runs on that. It's not just gas for your car and oil for your car and diesel for your truck and things like that. It's almost a lot of things around you, from plastic plants to Ziploc bags to, your foam parts, and things like that. Whatever's made out of plastic or petroleum, even fertilizer, because of that. And so it has an effect on everything. So when you have a reduction of stuff and it costs more to get things to you, look. And another thing about Biden and Letterman, they want to tax corporations, because they're billionaires and they could afford it. You dumb person. This is the difference between people who don't ever have a business. I don't pay that. Like, if I have a business, I don't pay that tax. Why do I don't pay it? Yes, I eventually pay it out of my pocketbook like this with my check. Yeah, I pay it. But I'm not the one who's forking out the extra money. You see what I'm saying? What I'm doing is like, okay, whatever. I got to think how it affects all my things I put on my shelf. How much am I losing? Say, for example, because of that new tax. And so I increase the price of that product. So you are paying for it. And so because I get that extra money, because you're paying for it, I take that extra money and pay the tax. So guess who's suffering? It's the consumer, not the business guy. I'm still getting what I want out of my product or service, okay? And that's how the world works. So every time you hear these clowns, let's tax corporations, even they're paying more than, they're like 90%, 70%, the very rich in this country are paying the majority of taxes. But when that happens, guess what? They make the prices of their product go up, so you pay for them, because they still want this net profit, certain amount, or it's not worth going in the business. And so you can't just tax, okay? So, but Fetterman is kind of on the same stupid wavelength. He wants to prosecute CEOs to the fossil fuel industry and grocery store people when they have nothing to do with anything. It's the government with their policies that are doing stuff. And so people like me and people who have businesses have to increase to get their same, because they have family to feed too. See what I'm saying? So it's just like, okay, you have another example of a farmer, his fertilizer bill goes up because there's a decrease in petroleum, and so a lot of fertilizers are made with petroleum and things like that. And so if it cost him $10,000 more of all his crops, he has to make up for that $10,000. So he has to do the math, do the division, multiplication, whatever, and figure out what he needs to raise the prices to cover that $10,000. So you are paying for it. So, and this is just how the world works. They're not just going to fork out, oh, my loss, I'll just pay the $10,000 and keep the prices the same. That's hopeful, wishful thinking. And it never works that way. And the same with the minimum wage. Oh, I'm just ranting right now. But a business does not exist to give you a living wage. Okay? Liberals scream and holler, I need a living wage. Why don't you get a second job and earn more? Or get an education, get a better job. Okay? So, because when minimum wage goes up, it's the same effect. the owner of the business has to raise prices for the product because now he has to pay the minimum wage more per hour and insurance and all this. It has an effect to everything. So just leave things alone, okay? And, if you have good policies, things will go down. Like when Trump came in office, gas was higher. And then when he came in office, like I said, in Arkansas, he got it down to $1.45 per gallon. Okay? So that's because of his policies. He made us energy independent. Like I said, it's one thing to like energy and things like that, but you need fossil fuels to like plug in your car. The energy has to come from somewhere. It's just not magically comes out of the air. There's coal somewhere burning, or there's a water dam somewhere, conjuring up that power. It doesn't come from windmills, and things like that. So, or solar pads. So anyway, that's my rant. And so realize who you're voting for and vote for the right person. Don't vote for clowns, Choose Dr. Oz, and if you don't choose and choose John Fetterman, I'm just going to laugh at you when your state gets worse because of that in the country. If the Senate remains Democrat, I'm just going to laugh at you and we're all going to suffer. It's not the end of democracy like some clowns like to say, but it's going to be a worse society. So always pick the right person. Be educated. Don't be stupid. And that's my piece, okay? All right, peace out. Bye.